Hey guys, so right, sorry, I've been busy at work, so I've just taken a bit of time. So I'm back here, and I brought the telescope inside. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to run you through all the cables, and so you have a good understanding of how to put them all back together. It's relatively simple, but there are a few finicky things that you kind of need to be aware of. I was going to label all the cables for you, but the reality is so many of them are interchangeable, it doesn't really matter. But nonetheless, so what we'll do is we'll start off with the cable for power into the scope. So that is just a regular power cable, like that. Now, we're going to have to deal with the fact that I have US plugs on. You're probably going to have to get some adapters for yourself. So yeah. So in any case, so this is just a regular cable, and it just plugs in over there, and it just plugs in like that. And then you've got your power on and off switch over here. Okay, so I'll just leave that unplugged for the moment. The next thing is your hand controller. Okay, that plugs in over here. I just leave it sort of strapped in over here. And in fact, most of the time I just leave it unplugged because I actually do everything from the computer. But if you're doing polar alignment or anything like that, you may want to have this connected directly. Okay, so that's power. Sorry, the cables are a bit of a mess because I had moved the telescope. So, okay, so that's power. And then the next step would be power for the PC, which we'll just plug in over there, and it's another adapter which I've got lying on the table. Right, then I have a little humidifier temperature gauge which plugs in over here. So it's just like that, and I just leave it. It runs from there to there, and I typically have it double-sided taped to the top over here. But I don't think that that's the right place for it, to be honest with you, because it's picking up heat from the computer. You probably want to mount it somewhere like that. I think would probably be the best thing to do. So I'm actually going to just disconnect things after I've discussed them with you. So that can come out. Okay, right. Then this is the power feed that comes. Where's this go now? Sorry. Okay, so this is actually, sorry, not power, this is actually from the computer over here. Okay, this cable goes through the mount, runs through the mount, and it comes in here. I will leave it there for you, but it comes in over here, and then it connects, it comes out over here, and then it connects into the computer, into the mount over here. So this is effectively the communication point from the mount. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I'm following the correct lead. So, yeah, so sorry, just a bit distracted there. So this is effectively the cable that runs from the computer to the mount. So it's this end of the mount and this port on the computer. Okay, so they're connected. It just takes a long route to get there. There's a good reason for that. So what I've got it running through, and then it goes into the mount like I showed you earlier, and comes out and connects through on this side. Now the reason you do that is because when all of this is moving, you don't want cables flopping around, because then the movement of the mount itself, like if this is moving up this direction, it'll pull on the cables and start disconnecting things. So you have to be very careful with cable management. It shouldn't look like I've got it right now. This is just because I've dismantled everything. You need to tuck everything nicely away, and then move the telescope around so that you can make sure that nothing snags. Okay, so to reiterate, this is the cable from this port on the computer that goes into this connector on the mount. Okay, so I'm actually going to just disconnect that for the moment, so that we know we've dealt with it. Okay, then this is the following cable runs through. Okay, so this cable runs from the computer on that port, and you can trace it, and it goes through to the back over here for the polar camera. So this is how this cable and this camera inside here is for polar alignment, and this is how the computer can communicate with that camera. Okay, I'm just going to unplug that one. That one. Okay, so that's now done. Right. Okay. So I'm not going to do that one yet. I'm going to do this one next. Which one's into there? Okay. So, as I mentioned in my other videos, this device is like a mini switch, mini router, and it provides power and data to some of these devices. Okay. So obviously it needs to be controlled by the PC as well. So it's connected over here. This is the cable that goes into the PC. Okay, so it comes in here. I've got it running through the mount again. Okay, and you'll see it'll come out over here through the mount, and then it'll connect back up into the computer over here, and it goes into that port over there. And then that would control the data coming into the little hub that I've got over here. Okay, right. The next thing is we need to put power into the hub itself, and the power comes from the mount itself. So once you've got the mount powered on, you can attach to a power output over here at the bottom of the mount. Okay, and you can connect it to this over here. Okay, so then that will provide power to this device. And in turn, this device will transfer that power onto other devices. So I'm just going to unplug that there for a moment. Also, whilst you see this over here, you'll see there's a port there for guiding. And then that's the DC port for power. Okay. That guiding we don't use because we're using a different methodology of guiding directly through a third camera or second camera. Well, depends on how you look at it. Okay, so in any case, so that power port there will connect to the power over here, and that'll provide power for other devices. Right, so that's out the way now. I can move this out the way. Right, this cable, okay, comes from this USB and connects into the autofocuser. That provides power to the autofocuser. Okay, so we'll just undo that one. And you'll see I always use relatively long leads, so even if you do leave them loose, they won't snag. Okay, right. Then there's secondary power that comes in to this, into here, from the hub. So it'll come in from this hub. So this is a power out. You can see it there, 12 volts. Okay, so that's the secondary power going into, oh, sorry, hang on. I got the wrong one. Apologies, I got the wrong one. It's this one here. So from here through to here. Okay, so this is another power output. I have no idea why it requires two, but it does, and it only works if you have both those plugged in. Okay, right. Okay, so now we've got a bit of a daisy chain that probably needs a bit more detailed explanation. So what I'll do is, I'll talk about the guide camera first, and the guide scope. Okay, so this is your guide scope. Probably the most important camera you have on the device, because honestly, without really good guiding, this camera can't take really good pictures. So this gets connected directly in to the hub, and this picks up power through the USB. So it's very low power, but that just goes directly from there into here. Okay, from there into there. So quite simple, no problem. And then you'll be able to control the guide camera through your computer at that point. Right, then we got a bit of a daisy chain. So you need power for the camera, okay? So the power for the camera comes in from here and runs through to here. Okay, right, then we go from for data for the camera, you're going to go from here, and that'll run into the back of the camera here. Okay. Now there's a bit of a daisy chain. Okay. So what happens then is this USB port over here, this one, is actually a out. So it's power out, and power out, and then it connects into the filter wheel. Okay, so that's the way the filter wheel transmits data and power. And it's only ever input onto the data wheel because it's just sending commands to it. Okay, so that's all the cables that are connected. So it's not really a huge amount of cabling, okay? It's just got to be done in a particular order. These I will leave in place. These are the cables that run through the mount, and I will leave those in place.